Of her middle name is a Athabascan Dene woman from the community of Athabasca Chippewa First Nation. She's also the Rainforest Action Network Tar Sands campaign organizer based out of Edmonton, Alberta. Is also one of the young people that has converged on the capital of Canada to try and hold this government accountable for its horrible decisions around climate policy and energy policy during this weekend's events at Power Shift. And so straight out of jail downtown. I'd like to welcome Daryl to the microphone.
Clayton's not lying. I really was in jail. Well, I was arrested and I was detained in Parliament for about 2 hours and was released on charges of failure to leave when asked, which truly was not the case. But such is life, I suppose. Today was actually really quite heavy for me because it was just so incredibly overwhelming to see the response that the Canadian government had against young people standing up and speaking out against climate change. Climate change truly has become the civil rights movement of our generation. And there are young people of all colors, of all walks of life, fighting this monster that's climate change. And I saw a good friend of mine who I have been fighting the Alberta tar sands with for the last 3 years get his face smashed into the floor because he was yelling climate justice in Parliament. I saw people brutalized for absolutely no reason today, and it was extremely, extremely traumatizing to me to sit there. And we sat in a room while basically CSIS officers listened to everything that we said to each other and took notes, while people took pictures of us without our permission and just watched us. We were truly being targeted as possible potential terrorists to this country. For what? Because we asked them to pass Bill 311? Because we asked them to sign on to the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People? It's totally 100% absurd and atrocious that our country does this to young people. Why was I here? I was in Ottawa because I'm fighting against the tar sands. Because I'm from the Athabasca Chippewa First Nation. I'm a member of that community. I was at Parliament today because I wanted to stand up for what's happening to my people, as Gitz was talking about. And this was a slideshow that I did a while ago, and I just wanted to share some of the visuals, some of the pictures, and give you a little bit of context to what I'm trying to protect. So these pictures were taken in 2008 at the Keepers of the Water gathering, which happened in Fort Chippewa. It really shows the diversity and the beauty of the land that is up north in Fort Chippewa, and it's only a community of about 1,200 people. This is what the area looks like. This is the Athabasca Delta. This is the Athabasca River. Again, this is another shot. And this shot shows you what we're fighting. Down here, this is where ground zero is for the extraction zone. This is the Athabasca River that flows into Lake Athabasca. Fort Chippewa sits right here. The river runs north, and with it, it carries the leaking toxic chemicals that go from these tailings ponds, which leak 11 million liters a day into the Athabasca River, and it carries them to this lake, and then it carries them further into the Mackenzie Delta and out into the Arctic Sea. And it is killing our native communities, and it is killing the community of Fort Chippewa. This is what it looks like. They've ripped apart that pristine boreal land that you saw in the pictures before, and they're removing for every barrel of oil, it takes 5 tons of earth that they have to remove from the ground, and this is what they leave behind. These trucks go 24/7. This is a refinery. This is some of the toxic sludge that Gitz was talking about, and over there is some more. This is them spewing those toxic chemicals, the byproduct, the aftermath of what they do when they have to extract this resource from the ground. And this is the beast itself. So in 2005, we were talking about the extraction, what you just saw. And we were seeing that it was being shipped down to, you know, a handful of refineries throughout the United States. And they were still doing 1.5 million barrels per day. Keep in mind, 5 tons of oil, or 5 tons of dirt for 1 barrel of oil. 2 to 5 barrels of clean, pristine water to 1 barrel of oil. 2009, we're seeing pipelines going across. And this was done before. This is new. They have proposed pipelines that are starting to build going across the west coast to Kitimat, where they had an embargo on tanker traffic, which is being lifted so that they can continue to increase. And production is closing in on 2 million barrels a day. What do they need? They need energy for this, right? They need energy to power the machines that extract the tarry substance out of the dirt that they pull out of the ground. They have to separate it through superheated water and chemicals, and the tailings ponds are a process of that. But what do they use to heat that water? They use natural gas, a cleaner burning fuel. They use, what do they use? They're going to use 2.1 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day to operate the tar sands, so that we can ship all of this oil down to the United States, where they're further exasperating marginalized communities, Indigenous communities, and people of color across the whole Turtle Island. And then they're shipping it off the coast, where they're going to be jeopardizing aquatic life, and that sustains many Indigenous peoples along the coastal regions as well. They're going into Alaska, into reserves to extract natural gas all the way into the Baffin Islands and all the way up to the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. So what is it all doing? This is just an overview. I'm not going to read it all, but it's destroying the forest. It's destroying the community's ability to hunt and fish and trap as they had always done. An interesting fact about Fort Chipewyan is that they used to be 80% subsistence. 80%. I'm not talking like 40 years ago. I'm talking about 10 years ago, the community was 80% subsistence. They lived off of the land because they didn't have an economic base, so they couldn't go to the grocery store, which they barely even had anyways. So they ate the fish, they ate the moose, they ate the muskrat, they ate the birds that came into the community, and now what do they have? They have deformed fish. They have large game filled with cancerous sores and tumors. They have water quality so poor they have to have the best water filtration systems in Canada, in a lake that people used to be able to drink directly from. And the water, the shorelines are being degraded because they use so much oil. It's getting lower and lower every single year. No one even wants to swim in that giant, giant lake Athabasca because it's contaminated. It's totally, totally atrocious. And the fact that there are health concerns. The community is directed not to eat the fish because of the fact that it contains high levels of arsenic, mercury, other heavy metals, and a chemical called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. This combination is a toxic cocktail that is causing cancers in these communities. PAHs are known to cause cancer. They're known to cause this rare form of cancer that's being found in the community that Gitz spoke about. And what? The government states that they supersede the concerns of the community with a decision to act in the public's interest to